Well, y'all appreciate you joining us. We're running a little behind schedule. We'll try to catch up. I first want to mention the judges and the work that the legislature has done. They made some progress, but not nearly enough. I'm going to sign the bill because the status quo is unacceptable. And this bill does change a few things, but I view it only as the first few steps, and hope between now and the time that it is to go into effect, which is a year from now, the legislature will be able to go back and do the things that they need to do. One of which, of course, deals with our magistrates. The magistrates, that level of court in South Carolina is the busiest. That's where most citizens go. That's where very important decisions are made in small commercial things, small things involving landlord and tenant relations, where trials are held concerning misdemeanors, and also very importantly where bonds are set for criminals, for repeat criminals, for career criminals, for dangerous criminals, and we've all seen the results of that. So we must have a better system for our magistrates, and that is something that we will continue to push for. But the legislature did make some progress. They established in the judicial screening process for the circuit judges and others term limits for members of the Joint Merit Selection Commission, and that's good. And also they raised the cap on the number of recommendations that they could make to the General Assembly to vote on. They raised it from 3 to 6, and that will allow more names to be sent forward, and that's good. But we still have a system of choosing those judges that I believe is demeaning, is inordinately time-consuming. It's completely unprofessional to have lawyers, good lawyers, who would like to be judges and serve the public, have to, for example, stand in the parking garage and try to speak to or shake hands briefly with the legislators as they walk by. It takes time away from work. We would be much better served, I believe, if we would simply adopt a system that's worked well for several hundred years, and that's the one that is used in the federal system, where the president makes a nomination and the Senate has hearings, which anyone can attend, which are televised now, and where the nominees are vetted, examined, questioned, and presented to anyone who's interested. And once that's done, then there's a vote taken. Compare that to our system, and you can see why a lot of very good lawyers who would be terrific judges and serve well simply will not undergo the standard routine that is required. And I think that's holding us back. But we have made some progress there, and we need to make more. Turning now to the budget, and let me mention about the magistrates. You know that once a magistrate under our system today, once a magistrate is selected, confirmed by the Senate, then unless another magistrate, and they have terms, but when that term expires, they can stay until someone else is appointed and confirmed. What that means is they're an at-will employee, could be for years and years and years, and very often that is exactly what's happened. And what that means is, in practice, that if the senator for that area, that district, is for one reason or another dissatisfied with that magistrate, that senator could simply make another appointment, and that would be the end of that magistrate's time, or could make another nomination. Of course, I'm the one, the governor is the one who actually makes the appointment, which is confirmed by or denied by the Senate. But that makes that magistrate, that judge who's in charge of those very important transactions and situations, an at-will employee of a senator or a group. That's not a good way for judges to have to work. And that, in fact, is why in the federal system you have in district, circuit, and Supreme Court justices, that's why their terms are for life. And some people don't like that either, but at least that does add some stability. So we have to work on those things. Also, turning to the budget, South Carolina is growing. We know people are coming in. We're booming. This year we had over almost $3 billion in unanticipated revenue. 2023 was the most successful year in state history for industry recruitment, with $9.22 billion in new investment and over 14,000 new jobs for our people. And the year before, 2022, was even bigger with $10.27 billion in new investment. And this is just the investment that the Department of Commerce and all were involved in. This is does not include the other growth of small businesses and others that are not involved in that kind of investment. But we've worked together, and we're making great progress, and we're going to continue on. This year's budget includes a historic number of proposals, 292 from my executive budget, that total $2.4 billion in very wise expenditures, I believe. And that represents an increase of 126 more than we included last year. So I see that as progress where my office and the various legislative offices, House and Senate, are working together to see that we move the state forward. Nevertheless, I'm announcing today 21 budget vetoes that total $2.29 billion, and I will go through and recite them for you and try to answer questions in a few minutes. But we do have some progress in the expenditures that I'll highlight first. And one of them is $20 million to support SC Nexus. And that is a new effort that we've put together that is going to be a wonderful accelerator for our state. And recently, we applied for recognition from the U.S. Department of Commerce to be one of 12 tech and innovation hubs in the country. And there were 400 applications from states all around the country. And some chose healthcare, others chose transportation. We chose energy, power, its production, its distribution, its efficiencies, and all of that. And we recently were awarded or recognized as one of the 12. And it was a joint effort between my office, the legislative offices, our research universities, and others, our congressional delegation, notably Lindsey Graham and Jim Clyburn, and it worked. And as a result, we will soon be receiving $45 million from the federal government for this program. And that's going to open a lot of doors and have a lot of our brightest people working to advance the availability and affordability of power in our state. We cut the state's personal income tax rate again. When we started, remember, at 7, now we're down to 6.2. And this will keep an additional $199 million in our taxpayers' own pockets. And if future revenues allow, we should continue cutting that personal income tax on down until we get down to 6%. 6 years ago, the minimum starting salary of a teacher was $30,000, $130,113. The average, below the average teacher salary in the Southeast. Now, the minimum starting salary of a teacher in South Carolina is $42,500, and it now exceeds the Southeastern average. This budget increases the salaries by $4,500, making the new minimum salary for a starting teacher $47,000. And my goal is that by 2026, that we will be up to at least $50,000. We recognize how important our teachers are, and we'll hope that we are going to reach that goal and exceed it. 4 years ago, I began including a proviso in my budgets prohibiting the use of cell phones or other personal electronic communications by students in school K through 12. Well, we didn't get it accepted by the legislature, but this year we have for the first time, and I believe that will make a difference, and so do all the educators and parents that we've talked to about that. As you're aware, 6 years ago, at my request, the General Assembly began providing funds to hire more school resource officers. We have 1,284 public schools, but we do not have resource officers in all of them. We're 175 schools short. I asked for more money, but we were provided with $2 million, which will add some, but will not fill that gap. This is one of the most important things we do. Our parents must be confident that their children will be safe, and having those school resource officers is something that's welcomed by all the schools, and I urge the legislature to provide those funds. This is the 5th consecutive year that we've frozen college tuition, and also, and that's good news. Also, this is the legislature provided at my request $1 million for operations and security at the Anne Frank Center, which is at the University of South Carolina, which is, by the way, one of 4 such places in the world. And also $1 million for the Center for Civil Rights History and Research, also at the university. Also, high demand jobs are still there. We have businesses, industry that are expanding, coming to South Carolina. And one of the most successful programs we've developed over the years is the South Carolina Workforce Industry Needs Scholarship Program, SC WINS. And that is a unique program in our state. I don't know of another state that has that, but also we have something called SC Ready, or Ready SC, where an industry, a manufacturer in another country, for example, that is looking to come to the United States, we can send a team there from our technical college system to analyze their buildings, their systems, their employees, all of that in their country, and come back and set up a curriculum at our technical college system to train our people here how to do those jobs when and if they arise. And that is a highly successful program. In the last 4 years, the scholarship program has provided over 108,095 scholarships, cover the cost tuition at our technical colleges, and that is a great thing. We asked for more money for bridges. We have a lot of our bridges in bad shape. You can't have transportation safety without good bridges. We wanted $500 million. We were given $200 million by the legislature. That's good, but we want more. For the second year in a row, the General Assembly has agreed to appropriate $30 million to the Office of Resilience, which is doing remarkable work, and also $28 million to the Conservation Land Bank and the Department of Resources, which have been doing remarkable work for many years. The Office of Resilience, as you know, it is new, and it is consolidating the focus on our resilience and our conservation. To keep South Carolinians safe, we must maintain robust law enforcement presence and fund the police. That's why this budget continues investment with an additional $6.1 million for recruitment and retention for pay raises. We must pay our officers well, and we'd like to keep them when they become experienced and experts. It's a good investment. We've also gotten some money this year for animal fighting, especially dog fighting. Most people have no idea that it's even going on, but you would be shocked and amazed at what you see. The cruelty involved, the kinds of people that accumulate at those events that are held in secret. It's a dangerous criminal enterprise. But we've got $566,000 to hire 3 more sled agents to combat this animal fighting. And I've had over the years, back in the U.S. Attorney's Office and in the Attorney General's office, speaking to sheriffs and others in law enforcement around this state and in other places. And every now and then you hear them use almost the same words. They'll say, if we could find out where these dog fights are going to take place, and we could go out there and drop a net over all those people that accumulate to watch those things and bet money on which dog is going to die first. If we could drop a net on, we'd solve half the crimes in the county, right? In that one night. We're heading towards that goal, I hope, of doing exactly that. Finally, I want to applaud the General Assembly for their work with us in changing the way we do business concerning appropriations that are known as earmarks. There's a better way to do that than earmarks. As you know, an earmark goes outside of the regular appropriations path. You don't have the hearings, you don't have the analysis. It's just put into the budget at the request of a legislator or at the request of someone else. And there it is. And if it is included in the budget and passed, then you've probably heard stories in the past where an agency gets money, they don't even know what it's for until someone calls them up and tells them, somebody from a staff here, and they didn't ask for it, they weren't expecting it, and they don't know what to do with it. Well, that's not a good program, and again, it's outside of the regular appropriations process, which is open and above board, and hearings are held and debates occur. So we need to eliminate that process and go to a grants program where money is sent to the various agencies determined by the legislature to be used in certain types of functions, programs, and then have those who would like to participate in those, nonprofits and others, ask for the money, and we have a competition to see which organization could do this work the best if the government can't do it itself. But after decades of overriding gubernatorial vetoes and all these innocuous sounding appropriation titles where the money was hidden, I appreciate the leadership of the Senate and the House now disclosing those sponsors and recipients, as well as the activity and the expectations. There are approximately, this time, 512 earmarks, totaling $424.7 million in this bill. Many of them are investments in local governments for the purchase of new patrol cars, body armor, fire trucks, upgraded weaponry, canine officers. By the way, those are dogs. I've been to the funerals of 3 in about the last month. They are magnificent animals that serve us well. These earmarks are for infrastructure, buildings, roads, bridges, wastewater and sewer projects, recreation parks, walking trains, traffic improvements. However, there's a better way to do this, and that public merit-based competition, I think, for grants from the different agencies is the way to do it. So, here are the vetoes. Veto number 1, Department of Education, that is now the law. That was about competency-based education. It's a different method that works in some circumstances, and that went into effect, so that proviso is no longer needed. Veto number 2, Department of Education, the proviso authorizes school districts to provide activity school bus access to community nonprofit organizations for non-educational purposes. I don't believe this is an appropriate use of the school district resources. It brings up legal, ethical, liability issues, and also the wear and tear on the vehicles themselves. So I vetoed that. Veto number 3, Commission on Higher Education, refers to the Commission on Higher Education, and it's called the South Carolina SC University Cyber Leadership Council. This proviso creates the Leadership Council at the Commission, and in September 9, 2022, I issued an executive order directing the South Carolina Department of Commerce to lead a collaborative effort among industry, academia, nonprofit organizations, and government entities to enhance the competitive standing of South Carolina's cybersecurity ecosystem and workforce. We've been working on this even prior to that, and the result of that effort is a South Carolina statewide cyber ecosystem strategic plan that will be published soon. Individuals from several institutions of higher education participated working on it, and we also had representatives from Clemson, USC, Citadel, College of Charleston, Coastal Carolina, USC, South Carolina State, Beaufort Technical College, the Low Country, Trident Technical College, Commission on Higher Education, and the entire South Carolina Technical College system. So we've been working on that to do this, to determine what to do about cyber and cybersecurity. And this proviso would create a new entity which would circumvent and possibly duplicate that work that we've already been working on. So this is, I would say, is premature and unnecessary, so I'm going to veto that. Veto number 4. The veto directs Clemson Public Service and Agriculture to conduct a feasibility study to establish a Center for Civic Engagement to promote leadership and civic engagement. I do not think that such is the mission of Clemson PSA, Public Service and Agriculture. The mission centers on their experimental station, their cooperative extensions, livestock, poultry, health, regulatory services, all of those sorts of things involving fertilizers, pesticides, seeds, forests, botanical garden, agribusiness, forestry, all of that. And I don't believe that a Center for Civic Engagement is consistent with the mission of Clemson PSA. It would have a place in an education institution with a purpose like that. The Riley Institute at Furman is an example, but there could be others as well, but it's not Clemson. Veto number 5 is PRT. This is a proviso that would prohibit the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism from expending funds to establish more public access to the Paris Mountain State Park, which is in Greenville County. I understand it's a little difficult to get there, and our parks are open to the people, so providing more access, I don't think is appropriate purpose of this proviso, so I'll veto that one. Veto number 6, again, PRT. Proviso directs PRT to expend advertising funds to promote, quote, inland lakes for tourism, fishing, hunting opportunities throughout the state, and public and non-profit owned and administered trail systems in all areas of the state. I don't believe, so I'm going to veto that because it's unnecessary, and besides that, that is precisely the job of PRT, and a directive to do what they're doing is unnecessary. Veto number 7, that's erosion control. Veto number 8, that involves beaches, and they relate to the same thing, so I'm including them together. They seek to alter the critical beach management policies and procedures for a single fiscal year, just for a year. And these are questions that have been presented, have been answered, and then the environment changes, and it takes constant study and work. But a one-year proviso freezing everything, I think, is not the way to progress in this very delicate and important area. I understand the special importance and underlying issues to affected coastal residents, and I've been to the beaches and have seen them myself. But as I noted several years ago in vetoing an 11th hour effort to exempt certain erosion control devices from applicable permitting provisions, because the state has worked for decades to develop a comprehensive statutory and regulatory framework to protect our shared coastal resources, I believe then and still believe it's unwise to enact special exemptions to the Beachfront Management Act in a hasty manner. And I think that observation and approach is still the right one. I know this is an area that a lot of people are very concerned about, but I believe that we have to get it right. And a Band-Aid approach, I think, or a temporary freeze is not the right answer. But this is something that we do have to work on. Let's see, number 9, veto number 9, amends the process by which public colleges and universities seek review from the Joint Bond Review Committee and approval by the State Fiscal Accountability Authority for permanent improvement projects. As you know, that's already the law now. Excuse me. So we don't need a proviso anymore. Same thing for number 10, pertaining to the compensation for intercollegiate athletes' name, image, and likeness. We have a law that went into effect in just last month, in May 21st, so we don't need that proviso. Veto number 11, Federal Funds Oversight Committee. On June 22, in the year 2022, I vetoed from the fiscal year 22-23 General Appropriations Act a veto creating a similar study committee that was called the Justice 40 Oversight Committee to enact the social and justice policies of the Biden administration, as well as other things. This proviso is just about the same thing, I think, because it's a little bit vague, and that's part of the problem. The purpose of this is stated to be to study and oversee the expenditure of federal and other funds' effectiveness in creating targeted efforts to address long-standing issues in certain rural and urban communities in South Carolina and recommend opportunities. Well, that is what various government agencies and actors are doing to uncover opportunities and solutions in all areas of the state, notably rural areas where we've just worked and invested over $400 million in broadband to have that communication link set up. But we were constantly seeking to bring industry, business, and manufacturers to places where they would do the most good, and we have agencies for that. I see no reason to spend money or even to set up a new committee to do that, so I'm going to veto that. Veto number 12 creates the proviso creates a legislative study committee to conduct a comprehensive health care market reform study with its findings and recommendations required to be reported to the General Assembly by December 1st, 2024. Well, I think that's what we're trying to do constantly. That was part of the reorganization of our healthcare and mental health facilities. And I don't believe that we need this study, another study now, because we're right in the middle of doing those things right now. I believe that studying and working toward the goal is worthy, but a 5-month study committee, I think, would not produce the kind of results and may actually slow us down. So that takes us to number 12, and that is the Active Ed Walkabout, and that is a for-profit company. And we had a grants program at the Department of Education, and have it now. It's set up years ago, where companies like this one that have a purpose or a solution, a procedure, a product that could be used in our schools could go to the Department of Education, get a hearing, go before a review panel. If they liked it, they'd do it. If they didn't, they wouldn't. So this, my understanding is, this one is an avoidance of that. And so this veto is against that direct appropriation for non-recurring revenues to a for-profit business which had previously participated in the Innovation Grants Program sometime before, I think maybe 2 or 3 years. One time they received a grant from $454,000 in 23-24, and also that's 21-22, and 23-24 is over $1 million, but they didn't get it this time, and so now we have this proviso, which I'm going to veto. Let's see, number 14. This involves the Department of Archives and History, their restoration. Let me see what this is. Oh, these entities are either not registered with the Secretary of State. This is 14, 15, 16, and 17. They're not registered with the Secretary of State, and or their financial reports are not in order or not even on file, and they must be every year. So without that proper information on file, I certainly cannot allow that to move forward. So that takes care of those 7. They're all treated the same way. Veto number 18, Department of Archives and History. This is money for and again, the Archives and Department of Archives and History didn't ask for this. This is money that has been put in the budget without going through the process of hearings and all of that. That will be sent to them, and they will be advised of the purpose. And that, again, I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating, that simply is not the way to treat the taxpayers' money and their interests. So it may be a good purpose. It promotes federalism, monitors the progress of the Article 5 resolution by states to apply for a constitutional convention and those kind of things, and that's worthy of support and interest. But it appears more that this simply supports the travel and the expenses of the various people from the House and Senate and others that are interested to go and participate, and that ought to come out of the House or Senate budget and not out of the people's money for other things. Veto number 19, Department of Mental Health, the Giving Back Fund in care of Mental Wealth Alliance-Mental Health Gym. As I did last year, I'm vetoing this earmark because this is not appropriate use of state money. The earmark money first goes to a national charity, the Giving Back Fund in care of the Mental Health Alliance. The explanation came with the request states that the funds are for the operation of a mental health gym in North Charleston. There was no budget identifying how the money is to be spent, and I cannot allow that to be in the budget. Veto number 20. This is Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services, and it involves $820,000 for statewide implementation of an electronic device application that provides information and support to survivors of an overdose, a drug overdose. The objective is that the application will increase the ability of individuals to make a long-term recovery. Rather than funding this initiative through an earmark, the South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services should, if they want it, if they believe they need it and it's efficient, should make a budget request to the General Assembly for such an investment, and then they will be in a position to monitor the implementation of the technology to document evidence of the outcomes. Again, if the agency does not see the need to ask for it themselves from the General Assembly, then unless this is something that they have decided after not making the decision to do it that they need it, then there's no sense in spending that money. So I'm going to veto that. And the final veto is the Department of Employment and Workforce Heart of Life Youth Workforce Development Program. I need to mention the names of these. They all sound good. I'm sure that for many of them they are very, very valuable purposes. But for some of them, we have no idea of what it is that they're going to do, and we have no idea after they get the money if they ever did it. And this has got to change. This is just not the way to spend the people's money. This is a lot of money that I'm vetoing here, and all of these funds need to go through, these special projects need to go through a grants program and not be handled in this way. At the very least, I don't think that the public has confidence in this earmark procedure, and if the public does not have confidence in them, and most of the people don't even know that there may be money available for these things. Ordinarily, they'd go to the agency, someone would inquire, but to have someone from one of these entities make contact with a member of the General Assembly, and then without hearings to have money put in the budget, the bill, and then have it passed and sent to me to accept or not accept. Particularly until just recent years, I had no knowledge, neither did the General Assembly, other than the one or two people involved, of exactly what the money was supposed to be used for. But that is not a good way to run a government, and not a good way to help our people. It's not efficient, and certainly doesn't build confidence. But the Heart of Life Youth Workforce Development Program, $200,000. From the information provided, the money will be used by the charity Heart of Life to provide career development services to youth between 13 and 25 years old at an average cost of $5,000 per participant. The CEO of Heart of Life currently works for Eckerd Connects, providing workforce information and Opportunity Act, that's a federal program, services in the SC Work Center in the PD. Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act is a federal workforce development grant program administered in our state through the Department of Employment and Workforce. The United States Department of Labor provides money to the Department of Employment and Workforce, which in turn funds local workforce boards that competitively procure service providers whose staff assist workers in obtaining employment by providing job search assistance and core training programs. the PD Regional Council of Governments Workforce Development Board awarded its WIOA service provider contract to Eckerd Connects. Clearly, the work of the charity seeking the money, the professional responsibilities of the charity's CEO, and the expenditure of the state's Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds could be undermined by this earmark. So we'll veto that one as well. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you in vetoes, but we'll be glad to answer your questions.
You asked for $500 million for the transportation. You've got $200 million. Do you think that that's enough to continue the current projects, or would you like more?
We want more.
Do you think that'll slow, without those funds, do you think that'll slow down the expansion, or do you think that's enough to keep the current projects going on your schedule?
It depends on what comes next. I know we're moving very fast. We see there's a lot of road work being done, work on bridges. Anything we needed that money. Maybe we can compensate some way. Our Department of Transportation has been good about doing that to keep things moving forward. But the money was there. We thought this would have been the right thing to spend it on.
Do you think that this infrastructure is super critical to our state's growth?
Oh, no.
Where does it rank as far as energy is concerned?
Oh, it's at the top. It's all about transportation. And you mentioned energy. Well, energy, it takes energy to ride on those roads. We have to be mobile. We have to be hospitable to travelers, to visitors, to tourists, as well as heavy trucks and everything else. So that's why you call it critical infrastructure. With that, you can have everything else. If you don't have good roads, you're not going to succeed. Can you speak up a little bit?
So I was referring to the Federal Funds Oversight Committee veto. That's the one that relates to the Justice 40 initiative.
Yeah.
I know that's been circulating in the legislature the last couple of years now. And I know we're not supposed to take any money for clean energy initiative. We just took $45 million yesterday. I'm wondering if there's a specific ideological opposition to the Justice 40.
No, I don't know much about Justice 40 other than there's a lot of the same people on this, but I think it's just an undefined objective. I think they could do their work and we wouldn't know what work was being done. We have other entities doing the same thing. Just creating one more, I think, is a waste of money, waste of energy. I think it's come a long way. We started asking for that information because it was what's the right word? It was not a transparent, was not an effective procedure. And as I say, I think the whole earmark procedure is one that ought to be put on the shelf and use a grant program where you have hearings and citizens can come and everybody will know what's going on and know what the money is being used for and be able to monitor. But since I started asking for that a few years ago, the legislature had come forward and they've been providing it. And in fact, they made it, and each house has made it a part of their rules to have that information. And it comes to us and we use that. Sometimes we have to call back to someone and ask for more information. But it has worked, and that's good. I think that's good for the people. Now, what we need to do now, there's another step that must be taken, and that's to have a good, solid follow-up on exactly what the results were. We're told now we get information, usually, on the objectives and what they plan to do with the fund and who is going to do it. But as far as getting information about the success of it and how it worked, those things, we're not getting much of that. That is, we need to do more of that. But all of that would be accomplished by having the type of grants program that we've got at the Department of Education, where all the people that have something, a nonprofit or anyone else who has something to offer in the area of education can go and apply there, and you have a review board, and it's all public. If you wanted something in another area, you could go to that agency. That's the way it ought to be done.
Governor, you've proposed this grants program over the last several years, and we've heard recent comments from Budget Chairman Healer and McMaster that they are inclined to maybe look at the earmark process.
I'm sorry,
That
Kenny.
they're inclined to look at the earmark process moving forward.
Yes.
If that's something they'll have a conversation about. Have you had conversations with them about this grants program? Is that something that they seem willing to support to the upcoming legislative?
Well, I don't know the answer to what they were willing to do, but everybody knows how successful it's been in the Department of Education. I think there's some reluctance by a number of the members who like the way it is, because it gives them a way to get something done for something they see as worthwhile immediately. But of course, that raises questions among others about exactly what is the money being spent for, and why that, and why not this. And also, it's a closed procedure.
If this is something that you want so badly and proposed this over the last several years, why not just veto all the earmarks until they put together advanced commissions?
Well, I think that would be unnecessary, because some of these are so good. I mean, they have a very worthwhile purpose. I believe that had they been vetted in the way other appropriations are, they probably would have received support. So I don't want to do that. What I'd like to do is without taking that approach, is to work with the members and bring about the fully transparent one.
Hey, I have a question. On the JMSC bill, you sent a letter to the Senate. Is that particular because it lacks the magistrate reform? And that is something obviously that the Senate has obviously most control over?
I didn't hear the first part.
The letter that you sent is to the Senate
Yes.
over JMSC reform.
Right.
They want more changes.
Yes.
Is that in large part because of the lack of
Yes.
magistrate reform?
Yes, that's right. But also, yes, the House bill had the magistrate reform in it. The Senate bill did not. But that, again, that is vitally important. Those magistrates, a magistrate's court is where most of the legal business in the state is done. Most people don't ever see the inside of a circuit court or sometimes family court, but the magistrate court, we have, I think, about 300 or more magistrates, and some are full-time, some are part-time. They all need to be lawyers. It would be best, but sometimes in some areas of the state we can't find lawyers. The lawyers just don't want to do it for various reasons. They're doing other things. But that is the foundation of our entire system, is those magistrates' courts. So we've got, just like we have to have good teachers, the very best, we have to have the very best people handling our laws and the liberty of our people.
You talked about the fact that a lot of the magistrates are serving in a holdover status. Could you expand on how that impacts the people that are coming before them in their courts, and how it impacts the general public, and how the judges?
Well, if they're a very good magistrate doing a great job, then it's good to have them in there. But if the way our system works is typically the senators who are the leaders in making those selections. If they want to keep them in there and continue their service, they can keep them there under our system now for indefinitely, but in 4-year terms. But they ought to put them back up, because if they are in holdover status, they can be removed instantly. Well, not instantly, but by the processing of another application or another appointment at the initiative of that senator. And so you end up having a judge that's performing very important functions, whose tenure in office can be ended in days. and that's not a good situation. So we have to fix that.
I wanted to hop back to the beach issue on the budget. So I know that we're currently working on new jurisdictional lines for some of the, coastal properties that we have that are seeing other managed, and this is sort of seen as a kind of, the revised are sort of seen as a sort of stopgap effort as we progress to that. I'm just kind of wondering,
What's seen as stopgap?
just as far as, the future, coastal management for some of these beachfront properties, and just kind of wondering, as some of the lines are being worked out, how you see this fitting into the long-term goals for how South Carolina manages its coastlines.
Well, I think we have to have, we have to have rules that make sense and rules that reflect the conditions that we're facing. But having temporary one-year approaches, I don't think is the answer.
Do you see a way for landowners' interests to be balanced in that picture? I mean, coastlines change.
Is it for the owner's interest? Of course, yes, that's very important, the owner's interest. They have a property right in that property. And we have owners with beachfront property, for example, that are they in a situation where the water's coming up higher, and a lot of them, the erosion. There's some of the beaches that have terrific erosion. So the question is, how do you solve all of those tensions? And I think a thorough way, not jumping from one idea to another, but consistency is a main part of it. Always keeping in mind the property rights of that owner. But on the other hand, if the ocean's coming in, if you look at the old maps, you see some islands, some barrier islands. One year they're big and full, and a few years later they're almost gone. So I don't think we can expect to have a static coastline, but we need to be careful about what we're doing.
Governor, speaking of quality teachers that we have in the state, just getting those minimum salary up to 50,000 coupled with banning the cell phones, does that make us a competitive state to attract the best teachers, or do we still have more work to do besides that?
We always have more work to do, but that is a big step forward, because we have to. There are people there who would be great teachers. We have wonderful teachers now, and if we expect them to work as teachers, we are going to have to pay them. And there's probably nothing more important that we do than educating the young people and some older people.
No cell phones make their lives a little bit easier?
It made my life a lot easier. I tell you, turn that thing off for a while and turn the television off. There's a whole world out there that you haven't been paying attention to. They've been books and studies, and common sense will tell you if the children have the cell phones all day long in the classroom with them, how in the world how you go teach them? How they go learn? How they go pay attention? Can't do it. Well, because that will be my agency, I will be responsible. The way we have been working very successfully so far is if you, in our agencies, if you have, and some that have boards also, but if you have good people who are qualified, well qualified, and knowledgeable, and they want to work, they enjoy their work, and they're proud of South Carolina and want to improve it, preserve it. Our reputation now around the country is we're a model of commerce, conservation, and preservation. And when we give these preservation awards up here, it's thrilling to see the things that are going on there. But if we have, and these science awards, these researchers, we give awards. I participate in some of them, it is a wonderful, it's thrilling to see the things going. So if you have people like that that are willing to work in these agencies, and they know the rules and they know the objectives, if you have really good people, then you don't have very many problems. And with an agency, everybody knows who's accountable. Be the governor. So if a governor sees something going wrong that he thinks is wrong, he ought to inquire. And if it is something going wrong, he ought to fix it. But if you have the very best people working, and they are allowed to do their work, then you don't have many surprises like that. He said that was your last one. What you gonna do?
What's your opinion
Of seawalls? Well, if you would look at the battery in Charleston, you're probably glad it's there. But it's been there for a long time. But seawalls, we know how the ocean works and the current works and the impact it has. But those may be questions that that don't have a single answer for a single location. That's why you have to really get into the science of not only of nature, but of the elements to understand what the right answer is. I don't know I've seen some of these places. It's pitiful to see what erosion is done. But on the other hand, you can't stop the ocean from being the ocean. So what do? We have to think. We have to rely on the science, rely on common sense, and understand that everyone under the Constitution of the United States, as well as ours, they have a right to property. And that's a very important, a fundamental right in this country. So it's not an easy answer, and so it takes constant evaluation, constant, perhaps accommodation, but not knee-jerk reactions or temporary fixes.